Baby, I'm going live right now. No, that's what I'm about to do. I think this is right. What's up, guys? Sorry, just trying to get all of this kind of figured out and make sure that we've got the link set up and all of those things. So hopefully it's working. I think Leah's sending the link now. So hopefully here in the next little bit, you guys will be able to get it. Are you on it?
No.
Huh? I emailed it to you. Were you able to join it? Is that a yes or a no?
I don't think it.
Here, I'm going to send another one. Okay, let's see. Okay, I have a link, but I don't know how to send it to you right now. Let me see if I can do this. See if this works. Send another one to you.
The email?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, guys. Sorry, we're about 5 minutes already into this video. We haven't done live before, so trying to figure it out. And there's a couple different links, and so I've had a hard time trying to figure out the right one to be able to send to Leah to post for you guys. So I'll give it another minute or two just to give some time for people to jump on here. But I know that this video will be posted later. So yes. Cool. All right, we got a couple people on here already, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to week 2. Excited for you guys that are getting to be here live with us tonight. And I know that many of you guys will get to watch this later, which is really cool about this platform with YouTube and technology and social media and all of those things. And so really grateful for having the accessibility and availability to be able to do this. And so yes, so like Chelsea got to talk about last week, her and Seth, this just gets to be an opportunity for us to get to connect with you guys over break. It gets to be an opportunity where we just get to kind of be family in the moment and just get to talk about, like, how are we connecting with God? What is he doing? How are we being intentional? How's our break going? All of those kind of pieces. And so there's several things that's been kind of floating around in my head that I've been kind of chewing on and wanting to share with you guys tonight. And so first of all, just want to say, I hope all of you guys are having a phenomenal break. I hope that your Thanksgiving was great. I hope that finals went well. If I remember correctly, finals were last week. And so I know many of you guys are getting ready for Christmas and for presents and gifts and food and family and all of those kind of things. And so just know that we're with you guys in spirit and in heart, getting to celebrate with each one of you as you are everywhere right now. I know that some of our students right now are in Seattle. I know that some are in Chicago. I know that some are in Louisiana and Oklahoma. And obviously we've got some of you guys still here in Maine, Mass, just different places. And so I know that we're all kind of separated, but glad we get to have these moments of just getting to be together. So what has break looked like for me, and how have I been able to be intentional with God, and how have I been able to connect with him? So several different ways, but first I want to ask you guys, as you get to watch this, how are you connecting with God over break? What does that look like? I know that some of you guys right now, as I'm asking that question, you're thinking of all the different ways that you've been able to be intentional and you've been able to connect and all of those things. But for some of you, maybe it would be the question of, I don't know, or I haven't been. And I think what I want to ask that is just, why? Is it the question of, or the response of, I just don't have the time, or I just haven't really thought about it, or I'm just so busy, my mind's other places, et cetera, et cetera. And so I just want you guys to kind of stop and really take a moment and just kind of process, what has that been like for you over break, and what does that really mean, and what's the thing kind of holding you back? So yeah, just take a couple moments and just kind of really chew on those kind of things. So for me, even my time as a student, what I've recognized is that so often during break, my initial response is, I want to rest, right? And I know that rest looks a little bit different for everybody. But the thing is like, rest is not sitting in front of Netflix and binge watching a whole bunch of things. Rest does not look like sitting in a chair or laying on the couch or laying in bed and just eating all the time. Although so often, like when we think of rest, we think of those things of just like, I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to do nothing. I'm just going to hang back. But the reality of it is, and you guys know this, like, man, have you ever sat there and binge watched a show or watched a whole bunch of movies or just spent literally all day on Netflix? By the time it gets dark and you're ready for bed, like you don't feel rested. You feel really, really tired. And you kind of feel directionless and purposeless. And so often that's been my response. As a student, I remember during break, I'm like, man, I don't want to do anything. This is my chance to like just chill out, veg out, do whatever I want. Like the time is mine. It's not having to be spent on homework and on classes and all of those kind of things, right? But then what I realized is that after break, I just felt completely disconnected from God. And I really felt like this place of like, man, I just feel exhausted. Like, I don't feel like that was really restful. And so what I've learned in this process is I have to set goals. I need to set things before me to obtain during break that are healthy and good goals that really get something put before me that I can really strive to and work through. So one of the most practical ways this break has just been that I know that Chelsea talked about this last week a little bit. And so I know that her and Seth got to read through the Bible and in 90 days last semester. And it's a challenge. It really is, guys. Like, you're reading somewhere between, I think, 12 to 16 chapters a day. And they finished it, and I remember them talking about just how much they really enjoyed it and how much of a challenge it was, and just how much God had really spoken to them through it. And so I've been sitting here coming into break thinking, what am I going to do? How do I need to stay connected, to be intentional in these places? And so I was just reminded of that. And so I'd been kind of like wrestling with this place of like, do I commit to this? Do I not commit to that? Like, man, that's just so much reading in one day. It's just so much to digest and really, really chew on. Is this really something that like I want to say yes to for the next 90 days? And what does that really look like? And so sitting there talking to Daniel over Zoom, and just really felt like maybe I should put this before him. And so we talked about it and told him just to pray about it and let me know. And so after some time in prayer, we've agreed to do it together. And so we've been getting to read through the Bible every day through the Bible app. It's in the Bible in 90 days thing that I got from Seth and Chelsea. And so I've been really, really chewing on that. I'm getting to read through that. And what I've recognized is that, does it at times feel like a lot to read? Yes, but is it doable? For sure. Have I enjoyed it? Thoroughly. And you guys can obviously ask Daniel what his experience has been so far. We only need a couple of days, so it's not like we're halfway through it or anything like that. But yeah, it's just what I found myself doing is, as I've gotten to sit there and I've gotten to read through different pieces of scripture, God has just been speaking to me about some things, and I've just been kind of chewing on some things. And so I was having conversations with Leah today about the story of Jacob when he has his name switches to Israel. He has his 12 sons with Leah and with Rachel and the other two ladies, and Joseph gets sold into slavery, right? And so he's sold and goes into Potiphar's house, and his wife, the situation happens there, and he gets thrown in prison, and then he gets promoted by Pharaoh. And just that whole process and storyline of what's happening in Joseph's life and what's happening in Jacob back home. And I've just really been chewing on a lot of those things, just about what each role of them played and how Joseph was sold, but his perspective when he got to meet back up with his brothers was this place of like, what you meant for harm, like God has turned into good. And so it wasn't you that sent me to Egypt, like God has sent me to Egypt. And there's just this really beautiful perspective that Joseph got to have at the end of it. And so just getting to see the way that he loved his brothers and how he gave so much grace, because they had betrayed him, they sold him into slavery, and like there was so much grace that he gave back to them. And it says in scripture that like when he got to finally embrace them, that he just wept with them and that they got to weep with him. And there's just this beautiful moment of reuniting together as family and as brothers. And so I've just been chewing on all of these different pieces. And so one of the things I would say to you guys, as a way of getting to connect is dig into scripture, put some healthy goals in front of you guys. If there's a book of the Bible that you've never read before, read that book of the Bible. It doesn't have to be the longest one. It also doesn't have to be the shortest one either. Like, let it be a good, healthy challenge. But the thing is like, man, like scripture is so beautiful, and there's so much life to be given. And there's so much of things that God can speak to our hearts through reading scripture. And so I just want to challenge you guys and encourage you guys, like, if you don't already have a plan with scripture over a break, make one. Think of what the challenge would be for you, what book of the Bible you want to go through. Maybe you want to read through all 4 of the Gospels. Maybe you want to read through the book of Acts. Maybe you want to go back and read Genesis, at the very beginning. Whatever that may look like, do it. And what I encourage you to is like, don't do it by yourself. Pull someone else in there, because what's been really nice is as I've gotten to read through the different pieces of scripture, what I'm getting to know and what I'm realizing too is that Daniel's reading it with me. We're both keeping a track. So I'm getting to see when he's reading it and vice versa. And it's really cool to know that he's reading the same thing. And so we're getting to kind of comment some at the end of it of, well, what did you think about this? And what about this perspective? And all of these different pieces. And what I'm choosing to believe is that as we get to continue to read, that will happen even more. And so for you guys, like, what would be a good, healthy challenge for you guys to be able to read through different pieces of scripture over break, and get somebody to do it with you? Let it be something you get to do as brothers and as sisters together. And let it be a good, healthy challenge, and get to see how that gets to be one of the ways that you get to be intentional and you get to connect with God over break. Because the thing is as we get to read through scripture, it's so refreshing to our spirit. As we get to devour scripture and as we get to read into it. And what we recognize too is as we get to continue to read scripture, our thought throughout the day is dwells on that more and more. It's like, man, all day today I've been chewing on the different pieces of scripture that I've been reading and what God's been speaking to me about it, and just processing all of these different pieces of it, right? And so it's one of the big ways that we can really get to connect with God and be intentional over break. Another thing too is, for me, there's a thing called spiritual pathways, and one of them is called the naturalist. And so pretty much just what it means is, one of the ways that people can naturally connect with God is just through nature. And so Yashka, man, I know that you're one of these for sure. You speak that love language with me for sure. And so what I've gotten to recognize is, one of the ways that God always speaks to me is just through nature, through the way that trees grow, or through the way that the snow falls, or through the grass, or through, different pieces of nature, which is why I love hiking so much. I feel like every time I get to hike, it speaks something brand new to me, which is so refreshing to my spirit. I really, really cherish those moments. And so Leah and I have done a lot of driving over the last couple of weeks. We have been all over everywhere. And what I'm getting to find is, even in the moments, whether I was driving and it was raining or snowing, or the moments that I was sitting at the house looking outside the window, or whatever it may look like, I just kept asking the question, like, God, like, what are you wanting to do? What are you wanting to speak to my heart? Like, what are you wanting to communicate? And just getting to see God speak so much beautiful things, so many beautiful things, through nature and through the way he created it. Because the thing is like, God is a creator, right? He created us. He created the world. He created everything that's in it. And I believe that there's a piece of every single one of us that loves to create in some capacity. For Leah and I, we love to create when it comes to like redoing antique furniture, or doing little side projects, or making things. For some of you guys like Chelsea, it's going to be more of the crafty things, as far as like crochet or knitting or sewing. For some of you, like Karis, man, she likes to write. And so we all like to create in different ways and in different capacities. And it's another way I think that we get to kind of get to imitate what God has put inside of us, because he's a God of creation, right? He's a creator. And so that's been another way that I've gotten to connect, is just, God, what are you doing? Show me something new. Getting to connect with the way that nature surrounds me. So often just getting to just kind of soak that up and soak it in, which has just been an incredible thing in and of itself. And so I think that that's another way for us over break is to be intentional in the way that we commune with the Father, not just through scripture, but also in like, God, what are you wanting to do in this moment? Or, man, God, like that tree is so beautiful, the way that the snow catches in the branches and it just holds and you feel the weight, and like, God, what do you, like, let him speak to you through those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, let him speak to you through his own creation and give you new revelations about who he is and about his heart and his nature. And like I said, Yashka, man, I know that he does this just so naturally. God speaks a lot to him through nature. But that can be one of the big ways that you guys get to connect over break, that I know that I've gotten to connect over break as well. And so since Leah and I have been back, we've been quarantining for the state requirements and all of those kind of things. And so we've been kind of cooped up in the house the last couple of days, and I'm just like itching to be outside, because it's like, man, I just want to be outside. I just want to be in the snow. I want to, you know what I'm saying? All of these kind of things. And so just excited for the things that God's going to continue to do and continue to speak in those moments. And so I think that those are some of the things that have been so impactful for me is one, to set healthy goals when it comes to reading scripture. God, like, what should I read? What does that look like? And to bring somebody else into it. To have accountability, but also just somebody to be able to throw things back and forth on ideas with, what do you think about this piece? Or what do you think about that piece? So I think that gets to be one of the things. And then two, like, allow God to use the things that are around you to speak to your heart. Allow the things of creation to be a place where he gets to show more of who he is in the process. And I think that you'll be shocked at all the things that he gets to speak in those processes and in those experiences that you get to have with him. And so I think it's intentional in getting to set goals, but just intentional in the way that where do we let our mind rest? What does it rest on? Because I promise, if you sit there and you binge watch an entire show all day long, that as soon as it's done, all you think about is the show. You think of the plot line, you think of the characters, you think of the different lines, you think of this, and this, and this, right? But it's like, man, but if we will allow our resting thoughts to be on the Lord and on creation and on scripture and on the things that are of him, man, we'll feel so much more fulfilled and so much more rested in the end than if we don't. There's just something so beautiful about getting just to commune with the Father that gets to just be so restful if we're intentional. because that has to be the thing, guys. Like, we have to be intentional in the way that we spend our time and break. Like the way that we get to spend it with the Lord can be restful and it can be good, but man, it can also be purposeful, and it can have direction, and it can bring so much life and produce so much life inside of us and inside of our relationships and also inside of our conversations as well. Because guys, like, I can just imagine now, like, if every single one of us challenged ourselves to read through a certain book of the Bible or through a certain section of scripture, when we got to come back together in January and February, it's like, man, what kind of conversations could be birthed out of those things? I think there could be a lot of beautiful things that get to be birthed out of it. And so I think that those are several ways that I've gotten to really connect with God over break, is those pieces that I just spoke of. And so what has been some of the ways that you guys have gotten to connect and be intentional with God over break? And then I think I also want to ask the question too, like, what are some ways that you would like to be intentional with, and how to connect with God? And like, share those with each other. Like, you can comment underneath the video. I know that we're live right now, but it'll be posted after this. And so like, you can comment and say, man, this is what I have done, or this is what I want to do. And allow us to be accountable to one another and encourage one another in the process. Your D groups are another great place to be able to communicate those things and to get to have your conversations of where your heart is at in those things as well. And so, so maybe that's a little bit of a ramble, but I think that those are the things right now that I've just really been chewing on, is the pieces of scripture that I'm chewing through, as Daniel and I are getting to read through scripture, but also just like, man, God, like, creation is so beautiful. And it reflects who he is. And so just getting to learn more of his heart and character in those places as well. So love you guys. We definitely miss you guys for sure. Like, I'm encouraged with the things that Chelsea was speaking to last week. And even Chelsea was talking about like setting up a time to run, to be productive in those places. And so what does that look like for you guys? What are some of the things that after Chelsea got to talk last week that you've been chewing on this whole week? Those are things that you can also comment under this video as well. Chelsea said this, and like, these are the things that I've been chewing on all week, and those kind of things. And so just encourage you to have conversation back and forth. I know that YouTube is not a platform that we've really used before, and so it might be a little foreign to you guys, but I just want to encourage you guys to actually engage in conversation, engage in relationship. Like, just because we might all be in different places around the world right now, doesn't mean that we can't still have conversation and still commune with one another. And so let's do that. Let's actually engage as a family, and in relationship with one another, and be intentional in the way that we get to reach out to each other and stay in contact. And so this gets to be a place. And so let that be that, be intentional in the way that you get to communicate. And so, love you guys for sure. I'm ready for everybody to be back for sure. Leah and I are back in Maine, obviously, our grocery sign. And so, but we miss you guys, and we're definitely ready to see everybody. We got a couple of new games. So, Lord willing, we get to play some of those. So, yes, I think those are the biggest things. I think there's other ways for sure. But I think that those are the ones that I'll leave you guys with. So again, love you guys so much. Hope your break is going phenomenal. Keep us updated on what's happening. Keep us updated on life. Keep us updated on what's happening around you and with family, and let us love you and be with you in the process. And we're excited for the testimony and for the stories that get to happen during break that we get to hear about when we get back together. And so, God bless you guys.